Down the road, over in Ann Arbor, they have to replace a lot of draft picks from last year. They're breaking in a talented but young quarterback. So is this a perfect time for Michigan State to pounce on the Wolverines, or are they just completely retooled?
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for kicking off your week with us here at Locked On Spartans. It's your team right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below on YouTube. The Michigan State football player you are most excited to play with in EA Sports CFB26. That's right, the football game that was the rage of everyone's summer last year. They are going to come out with their latest edition not too far from now. We're going to get into all those rankings here at the end of this show. But guys, to kick this thing off here, we are continuing what we've been doing every week this summer, taking a look across the map to see what is going to happen with Michigan State's opponents. Hey, when the game rolls around, but not just that, how did Michigan State's opponents get better or not better so far this offseason? And up next, you probably have figured it out by now, we're talking the Michigan Wolverines. That's right, the late October matchup. There's a lot going on. They've had to replace 5 draft picks that went in the first 3 rounds. They got Bryce Underwood, the young phenom quarterback. What are the question marks? What do they feel good about? Of course, I don't know a lot about Michigan football, so we're going to be joined by Isaiah Hull of Locked On Wolverines to talk about all that and more. And then right after that, yes, guys, some EA Sports talk. So let's get to it right now. All right, it is just one big happy family in the state of Michigan because we know that everyone is excited to see both of us. What's up, everyone? Matt Sheen of Locked On Spartans. And over there, Isaiah Hull of Locked On Wolverines, because as we've been doing here in Locked On Spartans country, we've been going week by week, getting a way too early preview on every single game for Michigan State. And up next, Isaiah's Wolverines. And Isaiah, here's just the broadest question I got for you right now before we get into the stakes, what this game could mean, what's on the line, everything like that. What is your confidence level with the Wolverines right now? Take that any way you want, whether that's over or under 8.5 games, whether that's college football playoff, whether you're going to sweat out making a bowl game. Like, where are you at right now for this very pivotal season for Michigan?
All right, I thought this was going to be nice, but I'm out. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Good seeing you.
Yeah. Just had to have a little rivalry fun for a second. I am, and I know this is, especially with your fan base, this is going to get me called a homer. I don't really care. I think that Michigan has a chance to do something special, but it's going to take a lot of different things to kind of work out for the Wolverines in order for that to happen. I feel confident that they are going to beat that 8.5, the over under there. Now, by how much? I think that's the big question. I'm using a couple different reasons why I believe that. Number one, the way they finished the season last year, right? Like, I think that's an important thing to look at, because a lot of those guys that played in the ReliaQuest Bowl against Alabama are those guys who are the next men up, especially on defense, right? Like, a lot of people want to talk about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant getting drafted and say, how are you going to replace those guys? Will Johnson, who only played like 6 games essentially last year as it was. And to me, like, some of the harder parts to replace are actually like Amir Hall, the cornerback who transferred in and came on strong later in the year, or Makari Page, who came in as the nickel. That's more where I have questions than the front, because we saw against Alabama that having a Rayshawn Benny and Trey Pierce, Ika Wana, Etta, that those guys can come in, be that rotation. And on top of it, they brought in Trey Williams from Clemson and Damon Payne, the former 5-star from Belleville, who spent the whole of his career at Alabama. I know that just by talking to people close to the program, that they feel like they probably have the best front 7 in the country. So there's not as much concern there. The concern kind of comes with a bit of the cornerbacks and the maturity and the ability to, like, Jair Hill's big deal last year was he got burnt on double moves. So if they can shore up that, have that replacement nickel, I think the defense will be good to go, especially because we saw most of those guys in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Now, the other place that I think that there are some issues is obviously the offense, but at the same time, it can't get worse.
Right. Truly.
They beat Ohio State last year with like like you and I could pass for about probably that much, right? Like
maybe more. Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's not a slight on Davis Warren, and Ohio State obviously has a good defense, but like Michigan, they found ways to win late, and they did not really have a quarterback. They were not throwing downfield. They had the worst yards per attempt in the country. So like that kind of tells you that it can't get worse. And then you got Bryce Underwood, and I think my concern is that can he not have those freshman mistakes? Now, everyone I've talked to that's seen him from and this name's going to really excite your listeners and watchers, from Connor Stallions when he was over at Belleville. Right?
I know that name. Yeah, I don't know.
I know it's an unfamiliar name to most.
I'll look into that when we're done recording this. But okay, carry on. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But like when Connor was taking over at Belleville for the playoff as the offensive coordinator, he called me and let me know. He was like, "This guy's insane. Like he's so far ahead of the curve, and he gets things innately." And I've heard nothing but the same coming out of Michigan. So that's one component. Can the offensive line be, I don't know that it's going to be 21, 22, 23, but can it be 2018, 2019 with Bryce Underwood? I feel good about the running backs. The receivers are a giant question mark because it's like, yeah, they've got a better quarterback. Who are they throwing to? Someone who was somewhat ran off from Indiana, someone who was ran off from UMass, a bunch of freshmen, and guys who were relatively mediocre at Michigan. So that said, if the defense can be what I think it is, and the offense can just be not even average, just not what it was last year, given the schedule, so there's a lot of qualifiers here. Given the schedule, obviously you got Ohio State at the end of the year, Michigan State in October, but they don't play Penn State, they don't play Oregon. They do have to go to Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC every other week. So with all of that, it makes me say, okay, this is the big question for me is not just all those personnel groups as much as it's, can they put things together enough on the road? Because there's not 2 home games in a row this year. If Michigan can be a road team, which it has been for the most part, and they did beat Ohio State in Columbus this last year with, one of the worst teams that they've had in a while. If they can be a road team, then yeah, I think they can get to 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 wins. Do I think they'll get 12 wins? No, I don't. So don't, and I say this not for you and your people, but more for the Buckeyes that were watching this. Don't clip this out of context and say that I said they're going to win.
Too late. It's already done. It's already done. I'm sorry to say, but no, that covers so much. And look, what I've been doing when, I'm talking with these other Locked On hosts is what are the stakes for this game going to be? And it gets a little harder as we get further into the season here because you don't really know what your record's going to be, but it's pretty black and white here for Michigan State fans. It's going to be a twofold thing here. The first fold is about 10% of it. It's that, hey, the previous 4 games before this one, Isaiah, 3 of them are going to be on the road. What kind of a stretch is that going to mean? Can you get back off the schneid with the win against Michigan? But that's the second fold here is the 90% of it. Let's not kid ourselves. Kind of tired of this 3-game losing streak run against the Wolverines. We need some juice in this program, and what better way to do that? Well, then to right your wrongs from last season, the game that you could have won, should have won, debatable, but could have won, absolutely, and doing it in year 2, closing the gap.
I don't want to upset you, but I remember I thought usually I have a pretty good feeling of the tenor of a game within moments of it starting. And I'm down on the sidelines taking pictures and everything. I went up to Rico Beard. So you can actually maybe blame me for this.
Okay.
I went up to Rico Beard after the first quarter while I was walking from one end to the other because Rico's my boy. And I was like, congratulations on your win.
Oh,
and he's like, bro, I've seen too many of these. And I'm like, I just saw a Michigan team that did not look like it had it in them. And then somehow they figured it out with some trick plays and whatever. But yeah, so that happened. And I'm sorry about that.
It's fine. I'm over it. Completely over it. That most obvious double pass in the history of football. I'm so over it. I barely think about it. Yeah.
That's like in that game, I have a tendency to speak things into anti-existence or maybe into existence, because
Likewise,
2015 trouble with the snap. I was again standing on the sideline, and I was standing next to Brandon Brown, who's not with anyone now, but he's been at SI and Rivals and all kinds of places. And or I don't remember, I think it was Rivals. Yeah, he was at Rivals. As Michigan got that pivotal, not pivotal stop, but how everything transpired. Michigan State got the stop, but Brandon turns to me and he says, "That's it, right? We won." And I said, because he was very much a we, like I'm not much of a we person, even though I went to Michigan. And I turned to him, that's right. And I said, "Unless there's trouble with the snap." And then
you had the call. Wow, well done.
It all unfolded in front of they ran right on the side. Jalen Watts-Jackson ran down the sidelines right in front, like right where I was. So it was all just like, I don't know what else I expected. Dead dove do not eat, It was kind of a wild thing. So I have a tendency in the game. So I think from now on, when we get to the Michigan State game, I'm going to say there's not going to be any shenanigans. Everyone's gonna, the winner's going to win and they're going to be happy, but the loser's going to be gracious, and there's not going to be any fighting anywhere. There's not going to be any tussling. Everyone's going to shake hands and have a good time. That's right.
Yep.
I'm going to have to start saying that.
We are just going to walk away all cordially from this event, holding hands with each other, actually, through whatever tunnel we walk through. It's going to be a beautiful scene this year at Spartan Stadium, no matter what happens, though. But summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or the high-stakes soccer action taking place right now, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. And you're already following the action, well, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, whether we're talking Major League Baseball games. Guys, we got the British Open or the Open for all you golf snobs out there coming up in a few weeks. Go ahead and already get in on that action with FanDuel, guys. Now, I've been using FanDuel all Tiger season long, whether it's, my favorite personal bet to make on every game, 2+ bases. Thank you, Riley Green, for your services so far this season. Dylan Dingler, you have been very fruitful in your endeavors so far, so thank you very much. But guys, if you got a favorite Tiger or favorite MLB player, go ahead, hop on FanDuel, and even, maybe string some along with the same game parlay. It makes every game even more exciting from the first pitch all the way to the 9th inning. And guys, if you're new to FanDuel, well, new customers, it gets even sweeter for you because you could bet just $5. And if you win that first $5 bet, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Open up the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started, guys. Again, FanDuel.com. Point blank, look, the stakes for you, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but it seems like if you win, whoop-de-doo, it's 4 years in a row. You get Paul Bunyan. Of course, you get the bragging rights, little brother, all the good things that come with that, of course. But this seems like a game where you lose a lot more if you take a defeat than you gain if you do get a victory. Am I painting this in the right light here, that it seems like there is something to gain here, but a lot more to lose? Or is that a little unfair from old Sparty over here?
I think it depends on what Michigan State is this year, right?
Who knows?
While I might not have the most faith in what's going on in East Lansing right now, but there's an X factor in Aiden Childs, right?
Yeah.
The way that I was having a conversation with a colleague earlier in the week or last week about Michigan State, and believe it or not, we're not just sitting there being like, Sparty, it's like we're trying to actually talk about the roster and what the team is and everything. And I said, last year they needed Aiden Childs to be Superman, essentially. And he just kind of he could do it 50% of the time. And then 50% of the time he was making mistakes, or there just wasn't, as much as he tried to force things to happen, they weren't going to make fetch happen. Right. So I think that there's a couple of things that could happen for Michigan State. It could Aiden Childs actually improve that ratio to more 75%, 80%, or, can the offensive line protect him? Obviously you got Nick Marsh and everything. Can the receivers, can they do more? Can the running backs do a little bit more? If everyone gets a little bit better, then Michigan State very well could be a team that is maybe surprises some people. So I think it depends on what the teams are, right? Because Yeah, if you're Michigan, it's a failure anytime that you lose to any of the rivals. And so like, and that's why like this last year isn't looked on with such a negative connotation, because they beat Michigan State and they beat Ohio State. And yes, that would completely demoralize the team, but it also could have a rally factor like it did in 2021. I don't think that Michigan beats Ohio State and goes to the college football playoff if they don't lose to Michigan State, because it was one of those.
That's right. There we go.
And I said it on the phone, actually. That was when we Locked On Wolverines helped launch Jake Butt into the ethos of broadcasting. And I had called him on the way home from East Lansing, and he was upset as a Michigan grad, someone who played for Michigan. And I told him, I said, I think this is kind of what Michigan needed, because it's been playing with fire for a while. It's been playing with its food, and it's kind of what happened in that game for the first half. And then, it caught up to them. And then, the defense fell apart, and it just kind of taught them, like, you have to be perfect, especially when you get down in the red zone. You can't leave a doubt. And so I think in the moment, if Michigan was to lose that game against Michigan State, it would feel like a complete failure. It would feel like a lot of things kind of just based off of preseason expectations. But losing to a good Michigan State team, and this is why we're not putting this on Locked On Wolverines and just Locked On Spartans, losing to a good Michigan State team, I don't think that's necessarily like the death knell, right? Like it's especially at this point, I think everyone's kind of looking at Ohio State and saying, like, that's the team we've got to beat. There's multiple reasons why. Their fans have proven to be, like, no matter how much I get annoyed as someone who has covered Michigan for the last 10 plus years at this rivalry, Michigan State, I never knew how, like, vitriolic things could be as they are with Ohio State. Like, I can't tweet out anything. I can't tweet like a picture of my dog without Ohio State fans trying to accuse me of some nonsense. And, so, like, I think that's probably the truth of all, like, Michigan fans in general, that it's like, they hate Michigan State and they feel like it's their birthright to beat Michigan State the same way that Ohio State fans feel that about Michigan. The difference is, I think, that Ohio State fans, I'm not trying to make a blanket. There's a lot of really great Ohio State fans, the ones who are in my family, and that's all. But like, they are more of the priority at this point, because you can't do anything on social media. You would think that they'd be like, we won the national championship, we're just going to enjoy that. They don't do that. So, not to turn this into a gripe fest on the other rival, but that I think.
This is a safe space. It's a Spartans Wolverines podcast mashup right now. There are no Buckeyes listening. Come on.
We share a state. We've learned how to coexist, right? Like, barely. That's, I think,
barely. Yeah.
I mean, barely, but like we a lot of us have Lions fandom or Pistons or Tigers, all together. We know how to do this. We know how to coexist. So I think that's a good part of it.
I just need MSU to actually just pop up and win a game here for the first time in 3 years, or 4 years now, if I can do my math correctly here, just to be the thorn in the side again, because it does just seem like, just afterthought. If we lose to Michigan State, who cares? And maybe that's just because, like, that's such a distant thought. Like, the wars that you guys have had with Ohio State are, of course, never going to be beat, but they weren't so far above where Michigan State was in the hierarchy for a little bit. And now, of course, after last year was close, obviously, but 49-0 the year before, we just need to pop up and be relevant, not just against top 25 teams in general, Isaiah, but against this rivalry. So, look, if we lose close, is it going to be a moral victory? Absolutely, positively not. You need to win this game eventually. And this isn't like a down year for Michigan, but I don't see you guys getting much worse after this year, especially with, recruiting. Bryce Underwood being another year older. So if you're going to get Michigan, the best time was last year. Kind of blew that one a little bit. Now, the second best time might go ahead and just be this year, especially at home. So that's what is on the line here for Michigan State. We'll see. Again, and you said it best. We know it as well. who knows what Michigan State's going to be? Could they be 5-2 going into this game? I could see that being their ceiling. Could they be 2-5 going into this game? I hope not. I might not be around to record those pre-game episodes, but it's going to be just a season full of mystery, especially in this first month. So we'll see what
you guys
are
like with that Boston College game, which might not necessarily be. I mean, they don't have Thomas Castellanos anymore, so like that, like that's kind of, are they what they were last year? I don't know, but that will be a pretty good barometer to see.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of adjust accordingly at that point. Expectations.
Yeah.
Do we focus solely on basketball, hockey?
Good. That's a fun sport now these days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else is popping this year for Michigan State? Women's soccer is fine. We could be foraying into that if we go 1-1 to start the season with the loss to Boston College and an overtime win against West Michigan. Who knows? I don't know. I need the season to start, Isaiah, because we have so many GD questions about this team. I just need them to start being answered here to form actual concrete opinions about this team outside of, hey, Giles and Marsh, 2 fun players, but such is life here, speaking talking heads. Isaiah, anything else you want to add about this matchup here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week, or are you all talked out about this game that's not even happening for another 4 months here?
I just think it's interesting just because Michigan State has usually played. It's weird. Like, Michigan's. Let me just try to get my thoughts correctly here, but it seems like the road team has tended to be better. Now, that's not to say Michigan's won games at home against Michigan State,
sure, right,
and vice versa, but it usually seems like the road team brings more juice in a lot of ways. That's not a hard and fast rule, but like, as someone, I've been covering the team since Jim Harbaugh's first year, 2015. I almost said 2005. That's incorrect. But it's, so 15, 17, those were two, obviously Michigan won in 19, but like 15 and 17, Spartans won in Michigan Stadium. I was in attendance, one of the very few in attendance in 2020 on Halloween.
Wow. Look at you. Yeah. Okay. Great times. That's right.
Yeah. So and then, so like that's 3 out of like, I know that's not like a ton, but then you look at Michigan, when Michigan didn't seem like it was very good, at beating Michigan State at all. It went there into Spartan Stadium in 16 and 18. It obviously lost in 21 and then won again in 23. So it is an interesting dynamic. That doesn't help your case at all in this, but I wonder, like, is that going to continue to be a thing where the road team in this rivalry tends to have a little bit of a leg up? I'm talking kind of generally rather than just this year.
Yeah. No, and there is something to that too, and you almost saw it with the Ohio State-Michigan game last year, is that the home team, especially when you got a losing streak piling against you like the Buckeyes have against you guys, okay, at home, like, oh, crap, we can't F this up, family show. You can use any F word you want for that one, but like eventually the pressure gets to the point where, okay, you are a little bit on your heels to start the game, whereas if the away team can get in there with the right mindset of embracing the hostility, just knowing that there's a house money-ish, emphasis on the ish there, aspect to it, then yeah, like this can get out of hand in a hurry, just maybe like it did in 2021 too, because that game didn't start great for Michigan State until, well, Kenneth Walker came to the rescue. But yeah, I do think that there is some validity to what you just said here across plenty of rivalries, this one especially. So I hope it's not true. I would like to see Michigan State win all games and every games, Isaiah, but especially that one, because I need to live a happy life again in the fall. That's not so much to ask for, is it?
I understand, man. As someone who was in Los Angeles through, I graduated in 08 and moved to LA, and then just seemed like I couldn't watch Michigan beat Michigan State. That for a while, like Ohio State felt like it was just like a bridge too far gone, right?
Yeah, sure. I understand. Yeah,
so
I got it.
So I completely get it.
Well, this is fun, already stressing out about a game. Again, 4 months into the future, but Isaiah, this has been fantastic. Anything you want to plug here? I know Michigan State fans, again, want to hear from you, just like your Wolverine fans are just thrilled to see my face. But anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week here?
I mean, I think I had an unnecessary dig at Michigan State fans in last week. If you want to just start combing through all of our shows on Locked On Wolverines,
that's nice.
Or you can check out the Michigan recruiting rankings right now, since Daily MSU to do his
don't don't you dare.
I tell Daily MSU provides so much entertainment all the time. I don't know if it's like a 40-year-old man or a 13-year-old kid, but
not important. Who could have saw that coming? That no. Hey, great to see you, Isaiah. And again, guys, shout out to Isaiah for hopping on this podcast. If you need more looks at the other side of the aisle here of this rivalry, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. I like myself some Michigan State Spartans. But if you're one of those sickos that always want to keep an eye on what's going on down there, of course, Locked On Wolverines is your place to go. Now, guys, we're going to be talking video games here, and I'm really going outside of my comfort zone because I'm just an old, weathered, suburban dad that has no time for this newfangled things. And plus, my Xbox is about 4 generations too old to support this game, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a fun time talking about it. We're talking EA Sports College Football 26, and guys, hey, this is not going to be, just for a minority. There's a lot of people that are involved in the hype of this game. One of those people goes by First Last. That's right. That was their name when they reached out at lockedonspartans@gmail.com, but they kept us hip to a website called teamcrafters.net. Now, even though this game's not going to be released formally until July 10th, Team Crafters, they've already been compiling rankings, player attributes. Like, they do a great job. So teamcrafters.net if you want to get a full look at the entire landscape of college football for this game. Now, First Last, they pointed out a few things that they like, and we're going to pull this out of the email right now. They said, my biggest takeaway is Nick Marsh being our 3rd highest ranked wide receiver behind Christian McCray and Omari Kelly. Very strange. I will say this, Christian McCray, 87 overall ranking. Omari Kelly, 85 overall ranking. Not too shabby. And Nick Marsh, not too far behind. He's an 84. I do think that is a little interesting, I got to say. Look, I like Christian McCray a lot. Lightning rod transfer out of Kent State. Omari Kelly, we've been hearing a lot of good things out of this transfer from Middle Tennessee State, but I am a little puzzled at this one. That's not to say Nick Marsh is the complete package. He's fully reached his ceiling. But come on, guys. Like, as a true freshman last year, it was pretty easy to see that he was maybe the best freshman receiver in the country. Not named Jeremiah Smith and or maybe Ryan Williams down at Alabama. You could have that debate amongst yourselves, but my God, I was really hoping that he would be top 3 in the conference, not barely top 3 in his own team, but I digress. I think they got a lot of other rankings pretty spot on here. Back to the email. He writes in, then secondly, Aiden Childs being an 81 overall, while Sam Levitt is a 91 overall and one of the top overall quarterbacks in the game. Feels bad how strong the narrative is that we got the lesser quarterback out of the coaching change. Hopefully Childs can flip that script this year. We need it bad, LOL. Sometimes you just got to LOL to keep yourself from crying. Yeah, at this point, it's pretty apparent that Sam Levitt in right here and now is the better amongst the 2 quarterbacks. It would take a lot of Aiden Childs this upcoming year to even leap over what Sam Levitt has already built. But I think the 81 rating, at first glance, it seemed fair for Aiden Childs because, look, his ceiling at his absolute best, we've seen a quarterback that's in the low to mid 90s, like amongst the best arms and legs that you've ever seen in college. And then, well, guys, here's the opposite side of that swing. We've seen his floor kind of look like a quarterback that's like in the 70s or the mid 70s. So when I saw 81, I thought originally, okay, you know what? That's fair. Again, these are college kids that we're ranking. And then I clicked and saw where he ranks amongst all quarterbacks in college football. And right now, EA Sports has him pegged as the 59th best quarterback. My God, 10th best in the Big Ten Conference. Now, just for this overall ranking of 59th best quarterback, heavens to Betsy, EA Sports has 2 James Madison quarterbacks ranked ahead of them. And that's not to say that the Dukes are some schlub of a program, but my God, their starter and backup are both better than Childs. Anyway, I think that is a little low now after seeing where he is ranked. I'm not going to say he's top 9 in the nation, but I got a hard time believing that he is truly 59th best in the nation. Anyway, that's just my view of it. You guys know my thoughts on Aiden Childs if you've listened to the show. Yes, he is flawed last year. I thought we saw enough progression last year. His legs, certainly an asset. His arm, certainly NFL caliber. So we'll see if it ever does come to fruition here. But yeah, I think he deserves a little bit of a bump here. Whatever. Anyway, guys, let's go through the top 5 players on offense and defense for your Michigan State Spartans. Now, the top 5 offensive ranked players, according to EA Sports, Jack Velling headlines the crew with an 88 overall. We like Jack Velling. We think that he has a high ceiling here. Didn't see a lot of it last year, but yeah, that's kind of, my last statement. Didn't see a lot of it last year. Hopefully he can hit this ranking that has him very hyped up. Christian McCray, second highest offensive player, 87 overall. Omari Kelly, 85 overall. Nick Marsh, 84 overall. So clearly EA Sports sees the same thing that we're seeing, is that, the wide receiver group could be the best here on Michigan State. And then your 5th highest ranked offensive player, transfer from Wake Forest, interior offensive lineman Matt Golban at an 82. If you've listened to these episodes where we've talked about Matt Golban, you know that we like that transfer a lot. Now, I did say top 5 offensive players, but I thought this was interesting to note. The 6th highest ranked offensive player, Elijah Tau Tolliver, 81 overall. Now, this is the kid that came in from Sacramento State. Solid enough season with the Hornets, but EA Sports pretty high on Eli Tau Tolliver. Now, the defensive side of the ball, the top 5 guys, Nikai Martinez, 85 overall. Wayne Matthews, 83 overall. Jalen Thompson, 82 overall. Florida State defensive tackle transfer Grady Kelly, 81 overall. And then Malik Spencer, 81 overall. I thought it was interesting with Grady Kelly because, hey, this was a guy that was a backup last year at Florida State. Now, if you've missed us talking about him before, he came to Florida State by way of Colorado State. Very productive in his first 2 years there. Goes to Florida State. Now, you can say with reason, this isn't like copium or spin zone. This is actually what happened. Yes, he was a backup on Florida State because the guys in front of him, NFL caliber defensive linemen. So comes up to East Lansing. Not going to be as bottlenecked as he was down there in Tallahassee. And even in the backup role, was productive enough for the Seminoles in a year where largely the Seminoles were unproductive. But I thought it was interesting that he's going to be a top 5 defensive player according to EA Sports. Now, guys, we did miss one name, not on offense, not on defense, but special teams, Ryan Eckley, 84 overall, one of the best punters in the game. So really quick, guys, they also rank the toughest places to play. That's right. All the stadiums in the world, and where do your Michigan State Spartans rank for toughest places to play? They are 24th overall and 8th in the Big Ten. And I got to say, in the right here, the right now, the year of our Lord 2025, whether we like it or not, I think 24th overall is actually fair. I think that's actually, doing us a solid right here. Now, we're sandwiched between Oklahoma State at 23 and then right behind us, Mississippi State, the other MSU at 25. But, guys, the reason I think it's fair, and look, you're going to hate this comment, but I will build us up after I break us down right here. The last memories a lot of us have, including the people at EA Sports, the last memories we have of the previous season were 17 people sticking around to watch the end of that Rutgers game as MSU got pile-driven into the ground by Greg Schiano. Now, this is where we start building up because we know that Michigan State, Spartan Stadium, can be a top 15 venue in the country. I firmly believe that. Call that a homer take or not, because there have been enough former opponent players that have talked about how difficult it is to play in Spartan Stadium. They always remark on the fans being right there, the student section being right there on the opposing sideline, how vertically the stands are built and how well the noise stays in. That's the problem, though. You need all 76,000 people to fill the stadium and to compete with these other stadiums that have 90, 100,000 people. But guys, I remember how loud it was for that 2021 season. Deafening in those games. However, that was 4 years ago. So this is why we're 24th and not 14th right now. So I know that we can be a top 15 hardest stadium to play in. I remember that 2015 Oregon game. My God, my ears were ringing until Christmas. So inside of Spartan Stadium is a behemoth waiting to be reborn again. But hopefully we could see it this year. And hopefully for 2027's college football game, we get a little sweeter of a ranking here. But guys, again, July 10th is when this game is coming out. So shout out to First Last for the email, lockedonspartans@gmail.com if you guys ever have any questions. All right, guys. Now, we're going to be back a few days this week. We're going to do our Mount Rushmore. Again, if you want to vote on the Mount Rushmore, I will throw that description. Oh, my God. I'm falling apart here. I will throw that link into the description of this episode. We're going to unveil that on July 3rd's episode this upcoming Thursday. But guys, until then, take care of yourselves. Love you all.